Before we start the video, I'd just like to apologise for the audio quality, and I'm looking to get this fixed for the next video. Hey guys, this is KingEthan and welcome back to another video. I've had the M1 MacBook Air for about 2 months now and it's been out for roughly a year. So I've got to say that it is next level. In this video I'm going to do a 1-year review of the M1 Air and tell you whether you should buy it in 2022. But first, a word from my sponsor. Tech Tinkering is a free online tech/productivity newsletter by me, KingEthan, designed to help you improve and maximize your workflow. It's simple and easy, one weekly tech tip and keyboard shortcut, as well as a video link. Subscribe using the link below or head on over to kingethan.substack.com. And now, back to the video. With the M1 Air selling for only $900 on Amazon, there's no doubt that it's a killer of a deal. When you compare it to other Windows laptops in its class, it's almost certain the MacBook Air always had better build quality, a much better trackpad, superior speakers, higher display quality, much better battery life, and almost always better performance in various different aspects. For example, it comes with the major benefit of having very high single-core performance, which gives you incredibly impressive web browsing performance compared to many other laptops. But on the other hand, it has enough performance to fly through many of the common tasks like music production in Logic Pro, programming in Xcode, and video editing in whatever app you choose. I chose Final Cut Pro, I think it's better, but more on that in another video. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's completely fanless, which means zero fan noise and no worries about dust clogging up the heatsinks. And let me once again mention that no other Windows laptop can match up in terms of battery life. So for $899 on Amazon, the M1 Air is still an absolutely incredible value even after a full year, especially if you factor in the excellent resale value. And I would fully recommend it over any Windows laptop in its price range. Obviously I'm biased, I'm from an Apple family, I've used more macOS than Windows, but I would still recommend this MacBook just because it is so good. But now, let's move on to the next contender, Apple's most recent 14-inch M1 Pro MacBook Pro. While we absolutely love these new MacBook Pros and we think they're game changers in terms of the high-end laptop market, which it is, the reality is that it starts at $2,000 and that converts to 3,399 New Zealand dollars. That's enough for a holiday for 3 to Rarotonga from Auckland for 5 nights and still have spending money over. So, to top it off, it's over 2 times the price of an M1 Air since you still can't get any discounts on it since it's a new model. And the truth is that a lot of the extra features and benefits on those MacBook Pros don't really matter that much for the common person or student. I mean, I'm a student and the M1 is just fine. For example, the mini LED display is hands down the best display we've ever seen in a laptop. But if you're a common user, you're probably not going to care too much about the 120Hz ProMotion refresh rate feature. And the new mini LED technology only really makes a difference when you're watching or editing HDR content. So if you never watch HDR movies on your laptop, you might never get to experience the crazy 1000 nit brightness anyway. And because the new mini LED tech on the new MacBook Pros, there have been some reports of blooming or glowing issues while watching movies. The point I'm trying to make is that the display on the Air is still really good as it supports True Tone and the same P3 color accuracy. And as far as a lot of the everyday use components like the trackpad or keyboard, they're basically the same and they both have Touch ID. But the downside with the new MacBook Pros is that they're noticeably larger and heavier, which is a downside for those who really prioritize portability, like me. And because of the wedge-shaped design, the Air feels noticeably thinner as well. But then when we get into performance, while the new M1 Pro models were quite a bit faster, the M1 Air held up impressively well considering the price point, and the fact that it outperformed the old 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro in many different tasks. So when we're talking about the common person who isn't going to be doing productivity tasks all the time, waiting for a few extra minutes to export your 8K Final Cut Pro video, it isn't going to be a big deal, especially since they're only paying $900 instead of $2,000. And the impressive part is that the MacBook Air is rated for better battery life, even better than the new MacBook Pros, with 15 hours of web browsing compared to 11 on the 14, and an extra hour of movie playback. Now, of course, the M1 Pro MacBook Pro has many other benefits like the better 1080p webcam, much better speakers, thinner bezels on the display, and of course, all the extra ports, including MagSafe. But paying an extra $1,100 is going to be a deal breaker for some people. It's just a tough pill to swallow. So in my honest opinion, if you can't take advantage of those extra features and the extra performance on a daily or weekly basis, like me, then spending the extra cash simply won't be worth it, making the M1 MacBook Air the best choice for you, even though it's a year old already. I only edit once a week and it's a 1080p video with not much graphically intense stuff, so it doesn't make sense for me to get it either. And this finally brings us to the last contender, the upcoming redesigned M2 MacBook Air. I've already done a video on the M2 MacBook Air and whether it's worth waiting for, so if you check out the description below or the card in the top right corner, you'll find it. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with this contender. So Apple never reveals Mac products at their September event, so we probably shouldn't expect the M2 MacBook Air until October or November. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you choose to wait for the redesigned M2 models, you could be waiting almost a full year. And if you think you're going to be able to get the new M2 model for the same $999 USD MSRP, you're probably wrong. When Mark Gurman from Bloomberg first told us about the redesigned MacBook Air earlier this year, he mentioned that
the new one is going to be a higher-end version of the current M1 MacBook Air, which is expected to remain in the company's lineup as an entry-level offering.
Yes, that's right, folks. When Apple releases the new M2 MacBook Air, the M1 is still going to be in the lineup, kind of like how the super old Apple Watch Series 3 is still here today. And this isn't the first time that Apple has done this to the MacBook Air. For example, when in 2018, Apple released the newly redesigned Apple MacBook Air Intel with the updated body language and retina display for a starting price of $1,199. But they actually kept the old silver bezeled 2010 looking MacBook Air around for another year at the entry-level $999 price. And based on Mark Gurman's report, I think Apple is going to do the exact same thing this time around by keeping the M1 MacBook Air at the same starting $999 USD starting price, while introducing the new M2 model for $1,199 US. And again, I've touched on this before. Go check out my video to find out about it in more depth. So back to the M2 Mac pricing. This is actually a deal breaker for people who don't want to spend more than $1,000 US on a laptop. So waiting for an even more expensive M2 Air would be a mistake, compared to buying the M1 Air on Amazon for $900 US. But if you are willing to wait and you want to spend an extra $300, what should you expect from the M2 Air? Again, I've touched on the specs of the M2 in my M1 versus M2 video, but basically it's going to take on a new design language from the M1 Pro MacBook, except the body is going to be quite a bit thinner and lighter. And the awesome thing about that is because they're getting rid of the tapered design, with the new flat and boxy shape, there is a lot more internal volume for batteries. So we could see even better battery life on the M2. There will also be a MagSafe port, and it's going to get a wide variety of color options like what we have on the 24-inch iMac. And it will most likely get off-white display bezels and a matching keyboard. The display is going to get the new mini LED display tech and maybe 120Hz ProMotion. And while I'm not 100% sure it'll be getting a notch or not, the latest rumors point it to be getting a new 1080p webcam. But other than that, not much else is going to be different except for, of course, the M2 chip. So make sure to check out my video to learn more about the M2 chip and what it's supposed to achieve. So based on that, if you can stretch your budget all the way up to around $1,200, then the new M2 Air is gonna totally be worth spending the extra cash. But if you're limited to under $1,000 and you don't want to wait potentially up to a full year, then the M1 MacBook Air is still hands down the best laptop you can buy right now, beating all of the Windows competition while still holding up impressively well compared to the new M1 Pro MacBook Pros. I've launched a podcast that will hopefully connect you to the tech world. The ETHANet Podcast, play on words for Ethernet, is a bite-sized tech news podcast delivered to you every week on Anchor and YouTube. You can listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Subscribe using the link down below to get your dose of interesting tech stories every week, or you can head on over to anchor.fm/Ethernet, spelled ETHANET. But otherwise, thanks for watching this video, and if you liked it, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and hit the like button. See you in the next video.